This is the Santa Catalina mountain range outside Tucson, Arizona. I'm visiting Tom Swetnam and his son Tyson. Tom knows a lot about trees. Tom, you said you're a dendrochronologist? What is that?
That's right. Well, it's from the words dendro and chronology. Dendro meaning tree, chronology meaning time-telling. You put the two together, and that's what we do. We use trees to tell things about things that have happened in the past.
So you're like a tree detective.
That's right.
Can we tell how old a tree is just by looking at it? By counting the number of branches or by how tall it is?
Well, in general, the higher the tree, it may be older than some of the other trees that are not quite so high. But you can't take that too far because some trees are just growing in more favorable conditions than others, and so they get higher. Some of the trees that are shorter around here may actually be older than that tree.
Really?
Yeah. This looks like a pretty good tree.
How come? Because it's really tall?
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized tree, and it probably has some age on it. But we really have to take a sample to be sure.
Hey, Dad, do you know what made these holes?
Oh, I think those were probably made by a woodpecker pounding into the bark there, trying to get at a grub or an insect. He just probably perched on the bark there and used his beak to tap into the wood there.
By grubs, you mean food?
Yeah, insects, little young insects living inside the bark there. These holes are, in fact, will look quite a bit like the hole that we're going to make with our increment borer.
What's an increment borer?
Well, it's an instrument that we use to take a sample from the inside of a tree.
To see how old it is?
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, exactly when we get back into the laboratory. We can take a look at it out here and get an estimate for how old it is.
Okay, let's do it.
Right. Okay, first of all, I have to take out the extractor, which is that device. You can hold on to that. And then what we do is we take the bit out of the handle, which just fits right inside of it, and we put the bit back on the handle like so. And then we're ready to put it into the tree. Okay, so we just put the bit right against the tree like that, and we give it a little bit of pressure, and we start turning the handle.
What's that noise?
Well, that's it cutting through the wood as it goes into the tree. It's just the fibers in the wood itself are kind of bending back in shape after the borer goes past them. Gonna try it?
Yeah.
Try it.
Here, hold this. Thanks.
Just turn. Yeah. You see, when you stop there for a minute, the fibers kind of bent back again. And then as it started, it popped through them.
Dad, does it hurt the tree?
Not really. We're just going through a very small little portion.
How do you know when you're near the center?
Well, you have to estimate, really, based on the size of the tree and the length of your increment bore. I think we're pretty close to there right now. Let's take the core out.
With this?
Right. This is the extractor. And what we do is slide it in like so. And what's happening is it's sliding right underneath the core now as it's going into the tree. We make the extractor go all the way in. Okay, now we turn the handle one turn backwards. That breaks off the core from the inside of the tree. And we just gently pull it out, and the extractor pulls the core out with it. See? And there we have it.
Dad, how old do you think this tree is?
Well, just looking at the number of rings and the size of them, I would estimate about 150 years old.
So, Tom, when I go back home to my backyard, can I find out how old a tree is without using the increment bore?
Well, not really. Unless it's a living tree and you've got one of these, you really can't tell how old a tree is. But if you can find a stump, then you can look at the stump and tell how old that tree was.
Tyson knew where to find a tree stump.
All right.
What can you tell from looking at the tree stump?
Well, for one thing, you can see the rings all the way around the section of this tree right here. And what's kind of nice about this is that you can see the changing characteristics around the stem.
Yeah, like these colors, like orange, yellow, and brown.
Why are there those different colors?
Well, you have kind of this brownish color here, which is what's called heartwood. And then you have a lighter colored yellowish wood that's called sapwood. The heartwood is really just dead wood. Some of the sapwood serves as to carry sap and fluids up and down the tree.
Is that dead too?
No, only part of it's dead. The outermost layer that goes around the stem is still alive.
You mean you could cut out the whole center of the tree and the tree could go on living?
Probably, because this wood in here is really just holding the tree up.
Why are there some rings that are wider and some rings that are smaller?
Yeah, that's a good observation. The wide and narrow rings are probably due to climate. We know that trees growing in this area, their growth is very dependent on precipitation during the year, that is, rainfall and snowfall. So in a year like this that had a very wide ring, there was probably quite a bit of precipitation, rainfall during that year, which helped the tree to grow. In a year like this, with a very small ring,
There was probably very little rain at all.
that's right, so the tree didn't grow very much.
I see. We went back to Tom's lab at the University of Arizona. He told me that the only way to really look at our sample was through a microscope.
This is really the good part, when we get back to the lab after a day of walking around in the woods and taking samples, and you can get back and actually look at your core sample. What especially we want to look for are for patterns in the rings.
Like light, dark, light,
Dark, light, dark, light, dark.
light, dark.
That's right. The lighter colored wood is formed in the spring and summer months, and the darker colored wood is formed in the fall.
Do the trees grow in the winter?
No, after the fall months, the tree really stops growing, and it doesn't begin growing again until the next spring.
So you mean that the light and the dark make a pair, and the pair makes a ring, and the ring is a year in the life of a tree?
Exactly right.
Let's start counting.
Can you see anything?
Yeah. I can see all the dark and light colors.
With the microscope here in the lab, we can date each one of those rings exactly to the specific year that it was formed.
Now we're ready to count the rings and store the information in the computer.
101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111. That's all. That's the last ring.
Okay. All right, we have 111 rings, and we sampled our core this year. So if we count back 111 rings or years, including the 1986 ring, that would give us 1876. That was the year that this tree was a seedling.
I see. The pattern of a tree's rings can teach you a lot about a tree's life.